It is, without a doubt, one of the most famous images in the entire world, a true icon of art. But what if I told you that the masterpiece you think you know is actually a ghost? A magnificent ruin that, get this, started to destroy itself almost as soon as its creator finished it. This is the incredible story of The Last Supper, a work of absolute, staggering genius that was also a disastrous failure.
And there it is, on the wall of a dining hall, a refectory in Milan, Italy. It was painted around 1495, and for centuries, it's been copied, studied, you name it. But when you look at it today, you're not just looking at a painting, you're looking at a survivor. You're seeing a testament to unbelievable artistry, yeah, but also to unbelievable fragility. You know, the writer Henry James once called it the saddest work of art in the world. The saddest. But why? Why would he say that about such a celebrated painting? Well, to really get why it's so tragic, you first have to understand just how perfect it was designed to be. See, Leonardo wasn't just painting some dinner scene. No. He was engineering a moment of intense psychological drama, and he used math and symbolism to build the whole thing.
The moment Leonardo chose to paint is just brilliant. It's that split second, right after Christ says, "One of you will betray me." And what you're seeing, what he painted, is the shockwave from that statement just exploding down the table. It's a storm of human feeling. You've got anger, shock, grief, denial, all captured in one single powerful instant. And Leonardo controls this absolute chaos with a kind of hidden code, a numerical structure. Just look at the patterns. The 12 apostles, right? They're clustered in 4 separate groups of 3. Then, look behind Christ. There are 3 windows. And on the walls, 4 tapestries on each side. The number 3, well, that symbolizes the divine Trinity. And 4, that represents the earthly world, the 4 Gospels. Leonardo is literally weaving heaven and earth together right in front of our eyes. Okay, and this is where it gets really amazing. This is where Leonardo uses science to make a spiritual point. If you follow the lines of the ceiling panels and the tops of the tapestries, look at that. They all race towards and meet at a single vanishing point, right on Christ's head. He's using the science of perspective to make Christ the mathematical and the spiritual center of this entire universe. He is the calm at the center of the storm he just created. So, we've seen the big picture, the grand design. But the real genius, the real genius, is in the human stories playing out across that table. Let's zoom in a little, right here on the group to Christ's immediate right. There is just so much drama packed into this one little section. The young Apostle John, he looks like he's about to faint from grief. The hot-headed Peter leans in, and you can see he's already clutching a knife. But it's that one figure in the shadows, pulling back from the group. That's who we need to look at. And this is just classic Leonardo, telling the story with these subtle clues. This, of course, is Judas, and if you look closely, you can see he's gripping a small bag. That's the silver he got for the betrayal. And then see this tiny detail? His arm has just knocked over a salt cellar. Spilling salt was a classic symbol of a bad omen, and the phrase, betraying the salt, meant betraying your master. He's literally cast in shadow, physically pulling away from Christ, away from the light. Leonardo said he wanted to paint the motions of the soul, and boy did he deliver. Every single gesture tells a story. Peter's knife, that's foreshadowing his violent outburst later in the Garden of Gethsemane. Further down, you see Thomas raising his finger, hinting at his famous doubt of the resurrection. It is just an absolute masterclass in psychological storytelling. So the composition is genius. The psychology is revolutionary. The details are incredible. So, what went wrong? Why did this perfect painting start to fall apart almost immediately? Well, here's the fatal flaw. Leonardo was an innovator. He was always experimenting. And in this case, his quest for perfection was actually the painting's doom. See, the usual technique, fresco, means you paint on wet plaster. It dries into the wall, it becomes permanent, but you have to work super fast. Leonardo, he hated that. He wanted the detail and the slow, careful process of oil painting. So he just invented his own method, painting with oil and tempera directly onto a drywall. This experiment, it was a catastrophic failure. The paint just never properly bonded with the wall. And to make matters worse, it was painted on a damp exterior wall, so the decay was shockingly fast. By 1517, less than 20 years after it was done, the paint was already flaking off the wall. And what happened next is an almost unbelievable story of survival. Leonardo's fragile masterpiece had to endure centuries of neglect, abuse, and just outright disaster. I mean, you can't even make this stuff up. In the 1600s, someone decided they needed a doorway right there and just cut it through the bottom of the painting, right through Jesus' feet. Then, in 1796, Napoleon's troops used the hall as a stable and would apparently throw rocks at the apostles for fun. A few years after that, it floods, leaving the whole bottom of the painting covered in mold. But the closest it ever came to being completely gone was on August 16, 1943. An Allied bomb hit the monastery. It destroyed the roof, blew out the other walls. I mean, total devastation. But when the dust cleared, that one wall, the wall with the Last Supper, was, against all odds, still standing, protected by nothing more than some sandbags. So, after centuries of this unbelievable damage, not to mention a bunch of well-meaning but pretty clumsy restoration attempts, a modern effort began. The goal was to peel back all those layers and see what was truly left of Leonardo's original vision. And the difference is just stunning. On the left, you can see how dark and murky and damaged the painting had become, and on the right, well, that's the result. It's a ghost for sure, but it's a ghost where you can finally see the light again, the subtle colors, and the emotional power that Leonardo put there 500 years ago. This final, painstaking restoration was led by a woman named Pinon Brambilla Barcelon. It was a massive undertaking, using scalpels and microscopes to remove centuries of grime and bad paint jobs. The entire process took 21 years. And that kind of leaves us with a final question, doesn't it? The Last Supper is a ruin. It is a beautiful ghost of a masterpiece born from a flawed stroke of genius. But maybe its power today comes not just from what it was, but from what it's been through. Is a work of art that wears the scars of its own fragile history somehow more human, maybe even more moving than one that remains perfectly untouched by time?